Hello ladies and gentlemen, for this particular lesson we're going to be going over Pythagorean theorem. Now, just a definition, the Pythagorean theorem describes the relationship between the lengths of the legs, which is in this case your A and B. So in a right triangle, first of all, it must be a right triangle for us to be able to apply the Pythagorean theorem. So if you don't have a right triangle, then these theorem will not be applicable. Okay, now anyway, let's continue. So relationship between the lengths of two legs and the hypotenuse of a right triangle. So in this case, the hypotenuse is always the longest side. Now A and B doesn't really matter in this case. You can always swap them back and forth, but for the letter C, it really matter because you need to know that the length C is always going to be opposite to these perpendicular lines. So in this case, just make sure that you know where to identify C. All right. Now, if you have these correctly in this right position, then you'll be able to find the distance by using the theorem of a squared plus b squared equal to c squared. So make sure you write these as part of your notes, especially if you're almost done with this course. So these will be a good note to take. Okay. All right. With that being said, before we start applying the Pythagorean theorem and find the missing length, let's take a look at your worksheet first, and then I'm going to refer back to this one. All right. Now, first thing first, what I would like you guys to do, this is going to be kind of hard to see, so I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit. Identifying where your length C is going to be. Now, I know that the printout might not come out like as clear, but just so you know, let me kind of mark the right angle on all the problem so you can kind of see where everything is at. Okay, now I'm gonna mark these and let's find C first. So we're gonna do ABC on all these triangles. All right, again, length C is always opposite to the right angle. So in this case, number one, these will be my C, and then A can be A, X can be B. So go ahead and do that on all 10 problems. Now we're going to ignore number one and problem number one and number two first, just because once you know how to do 3 to 10, number one and number two is actually pretty easy and pretty simple. Okay. All right. So for this one, it'll be A, B, C there. Right here, you're going to have opposite of these is your X. So it'll be C and then A, B. Doesn't really matter on A, B. You can have B, A here. As I mentioned before, what's important is where is the location of letter C. Again, for this one, this is your right angle. So opposite of these is letter C. Okay, so first thing first, identifying all length C in every single problem. Okay, just make sure that you know that length C is always opposite of the angle, the right angle. All right, I'm not going to do 9 and 10 just because that way we can get started. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is problem number 3 and problem number 5. All right, so first thing first, before I move on to the whiteboard, let's identify A, B, C in this case. So for problem number 3, all right, now we're going to go into the whiteboard part. So for problem number 3, as I mentioned before, the length that is opposite to the right angle is going to be letter C. So that means this one can be A and this one can be B. Now we're going to apply Pythagorean theorem, which is in this case A squared plus B squared equal to C squared. All right, and we're going to find the missing length. So now just substitute it based on what you have. So in this case, A will be 8. So you're going to get x squared. B will be x. So x squared, and C will be 10 squared. Now, if you would have chosen these to be letter B and these to be letter A, that's still fine because the letter will just be places right here instead of number 8, right? So it'll be X and then this one will be 8. So don't worry about A and B. What's most important is letter C. Make sure number 10 is go with letter C. That's the most important. Now we're going to find the missing length. So just remember that x squared is 8 times 8. So therefore, that's going to give us 64 plus x squared equal to 10 squared. That's going to be 10 times 10, which is 100. Now what we're going to do is solve for x because that's the missing link. So subtract 64 on both sides. And once we have done that, we're going to get x squared equal to 36 because 100 minus 64 is 36. Then square root both sides. Now usually when we square root, why do we square root? It's because we try to undo the square. Again, we're solving for x, not for x squared. Am I correct? Now, once we square root these, we're going to get x. Usually, square root will come out with a negative and a positive answer, but since we're dealing with distance, so the only answer that can be is the positive one. What's square root of 36? Well, we know 6 times 6 is 36, so therefore square root of 36 is 6. And that's it. That's how you do number 3. All right? So pretty much plain and simple. Now I'm going to do one more, which is number 5. Again, for problem number 5, first identify letter C. So in this case is the length that is opposite to the right angle. So letter C would be right here. A could be my 12 and B could be my 5. Vice versa. If I want to do A here and B here, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, just to make sure that the most important part is where letter C is going to be, or your hypotenuse. So right here, we're going to set it up so a squared plus b squared equal to c squared. And what you're going to do is just go ahead and substitute it. So in this case will be 12 squared plus 5 squared equal to x squared. So we're solving for actual length c right here. 12 squared is 144 because 12 times 12. 5 squared is 5 squared is 25 equal to x squared. And then right here, add these up. This is going to give you 169 equal to x squared. Now, what we're going to do is square root both sides. And then square root of x squared is going to give us x. And if you do not know what is the square root of 169, so you can go ahead and grab the calculator. And then right here where it says second, you're going to hit on that button. And then the square root is on the same button as x squared, which is, you see that square root symbol above the x squared. So just click on that. And you're going to see that the square root pop up. And then just put 169, close it. And the answer is 13. Now, sometimes you might not get a perfect answer like this. You might get 13.5, 13.6. And that's quite all right. Not all length is going to be a whole number. Okay? So in this case, the answer is 13. And that's it. That's how you deal or do problems that deal with Pythagorean theorem. If you go back to problem number 1 and number 2 on the worksheet, you're going to see that they already give you exactly which value. Okay? So just go ahead and solve the missing one. Put that missing one as a letter X. And that's it, guys. Have a good day.